right, everyone. Welcome to Midwest Multifamily. Today we've got Dayne Conley on, and very excited and happy he could make it. Dayne has been a friend, mentor, and just overall positive energy to be around for my partner Ethan and I. And I'm happy you could make it on here, Dayne. So thank you for making the time.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. I'm excited. I love doing podcasts. I love talking with you and Ethan. It's always a little bit better when we have a smoked old fashioned or do a bourbon tasting. But we'll get there again.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, I'd like to kind of just jump right into maybe a little bit of your backstory and kind of what you did leading up to getting into real estate and, where you guys are kind of at now and where you're headed.
Yeah, it's kind of an exciting time. Not to get ahead of myself, I guess, my brother Jared and I started Aspen Realty Group, which is my cute little sweatshirt here. We started about 4 years ago. I had always loved real estate. I think the first job I ever wanted to, or the first career I ever wanted to pursue was being an architect. As a little kid, I remember getting the weekend newspaper, and they had every Sunday they had a new clip of architectural plans of a new house, and some of them I liked, some of them I didn't. And I'm such a type A geek that even at that age, I was probably 8, 9 years old. I would clip. These are back in the old days. I would actually cut out the article and the blueprints and the pictures of the homes that I really liked, and I saved them. My parents were building a house at that time, and I got to, have a little bit of say in the house, which made me feel like pretty hot stuff. And that's kind of where it started. And, I'm a physical therapist by trade. Even during grad school, I would just, you walking to class, walking to campus. If you're renting an apartment, I was just always looking at buildings. Who owns this? Gosh, how do you afford to own a 32 unit, you know, place that I'm staying in? How do you get there? And early in my career, I was doing well professionally, and I bet 3 or 4 times I'd looked into buying a condo here in Columbus, $80,000 condo where I may be making $50 a month, and it just $100 a month. And I knew, sometimes I told you and Ethan, sometimes you just have to listen to the universe. Like I'm all about making things happen, and sometimes trying to bully the universe, but sometimes you just have to figure it out, wait, be patient. And so that didn't make sense to me, how I could be lucrative and make that worth my time and stress and energy. And then Jared just randomly, I was telling him about the one condo that I passed on, and he said, "Well, geez, have you ever thought of doing multifamily?" And I had no idea what it was. And what are you talking about? And he was actually reading Wheelbarrow Prophets by Jake and Gino. Told me about it, and I'm like, oh. And right then, like, I hadn't read the book. I didn't know more than 2 minutes of his explanation of what multifamily was, it's just like anything. The light went off. I'm like, oh, hell yeah, that makes sense. That's gonna be more expensive, but I can see, how it can scale. And so, yeah, I did. Don't tell Jake and Gino. I found a free download of Wheelbarrow Prophets. I downloaded it and read the whole thing in less than a day and a half. And as I was reading that, being in medicine, well, you're in military, so you have procedures that you have to follow. In medicine, it's kind of the same way. We always look for data and objective guidelines. I always use the example. We know, roughly 130/90 is high blood pressure because that's been researched. We know blood sugar levels that are normal or abnormal because that's been researched. Well, that book provided us kind of with the blueprints. It was kind of like, here you go. If you do these things, more than likely you're going to be successful. If you don't do these things, you're a dumbass. You know, it wasn't that hard, even for somebody with limited intelligence like myself. So, um, yeah, I jumped into that and I told Jared, I'm like, yo, this is it, man. Let's do it. And I was busy as could be. I had three. I don't think we had adopted Brent yet at that point, so we probably only had three kids only. And I had my business that I was launching. Another, and I was still a W-2 employee. My wife was still working, but I'm type A. I usually need to have two jobs. So we jumped in and we said, well, let's start searching around, and we in typical Dane and Jared fashion, we said, well, let's do something small, maybe a. We didn't want to necessarily do a duplex, but maybe a fourplex, a six, something smaller like that. Stick our toe in the water. So uh, we had jumped right into a 20 unit. That was a D plus. It was too heavy of a lift for us, but long story short, we made it through. I've told the story many times. There was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears there. There was, Jared and I recalled this on Kent's podcast, that there was one day where my brother Jared's a physician, smartest guy I know. Um, and I said, I just don't think we're good at this, because we were struggling so badly. But we made it through, and the rest is kind of history. It's kind of an exciting time because I don't even think I've told you this yet. I just launched, Aspen Residential Group, which is my Burr company, where I'll probably do some flips there also. But again, something I always wanted to do. I love seeing old, beat up, ugly buildings, but I see the upside in them, and I say, oh gosh, that would look amazing if we put some money into it and rehabbed it. And so last Friday, I closed on my first residential, and I'm getting text messages from my GC. I found a great GC, and I already had the rest of the team set up, legal, accounting, and so consulted with them, got everything set up, and now we're off and running. And we're constantly, as you know, looking on the multifamily side to continue to grow. That's easier said than done right now, but that's kind of how we got started and where we are right now. We're also looking at short-term rentals down in Hocking Hills. It would be a cool little venture to do something down there too. And that would be to help offset taxes, obviously.
Definitely. Well, congratulations on the residential close. And maybe just to share a little of the timeline, when did you close that first 20 unit? And then maybe just share a little bit more about like what your portfolio actually is now, because you guys have obviously scaled quite a bit. And I think that probably would be pretty insightful to
Yeah.
those that maybe haven't heard about you.
So, as I said, typical Dane and Jared fashion, we wanted to do something small. Started off, 20 units. I think we were the purchase price on that was 1.1. We bought that, like I said, probably about 4 years ago. I think we had only been looking for about maybe a couple of weeks at the most. Put a couple $100,000 into that, and when I say it was a fixer-upper, I mean, as I've told you, there was literally feces in the basement, black mold everywhere, floors collapsing. It was bad. So we put a couple $100,000 into the interiors first to make sure that they were safe and stable, and there's no poopy in the basements. And then we worked inside out because we had to. And then once we got the insides renovated and stabilized, then we worked on the outsides, painting, new roofs, driveways, things like that. And after, I think we owned them just over a year. We're long-term hold guys, but we got an offer that we couldn't refuse on it. We were able to double our money. It was like a $2.2 million sale price. So we just took that roughly $1 million, 1031'd it into what is now 168 units. So again, it would have been easier if we had slowly grown, and there were definitely some growing pains initially on the 20 just to get it stabilized. But going from 20 to basically 168 units in roughly a year was a lot for Jared and I. It was too much for our property management group, who were great on the small scale, but as a mom and pop shop, they admitted it was too much for them. So we had to figure that out. We just signed on with Abbey Hill Property Management Group, which is the largest property management group in the state of Ohio, I believe, especially for affordable housing, which is what we specialize in. All 168 of our units are affordable housing. We're not under HUD contracts or anything like that. It's open market tenants, Section 8 tenants, VA tenants, and that's kind of our plan. It has upsides and downsides, but we like the affordability play. We go in, buy the properties, stabilize them physically and economically, and keep rents affordable for the working class, for Section 8 and things like that. So, yeah, we're at 168 units. 130 some are here in Columbus, and the other 30 odd are in Newark Heath area there on the east side of town. So
Awesome. Well, yeah, thank you for sharing that. And maybe to get kind of granular, because I think a lot of people that are maybe starting or even have been in the journey but are trying to figure out what kind of like actions or habits that they should be building or implementing. And I already kind of know a little bit just because you guys are action takers. You're constantly underwriting, looking, talking to people. But, are there any key habits that you think you guys had or implemented early on that have allowed you to scale so quickly?
I mean, education for any career is paramount. I was just laughing with somebody yesterday about, I've got that feeling that I had when I was 20, whatever, when I was coming out as a PT, out of a physical therapist out of grad school, thought I knew everything, and then worked one day with veteran therapists and realized I didn't know shit. And so, over there in the corner of my office, I still have, there are stacks like this of research articles on physical therapy that I would read on the shoulder, on the knee, and just absorb that same way, from Wheelbarrow Profits to Rich Dad Poor Dad to, bookshelves of books that I have on real estate. That was the number one thing, probably. Joining different mentorship academies has been beneficial. Being open-minded, that's another thing. It would be real easy to get kind of categorized and vanilla in our approach to looking at properties, underwriting properties, making offers. So we take pride in being flexible with creative financing, great, or standard financing. We truly, not to sound egotistical or whatever, but I just think we're good guys, and we don't want to screw anybody over. So when we go into these deals, we think of the seller first. What do they need? Is it a price? Is it flexibility for taxes? Is it whatever? And then we just kind of figure it out from there. So education is a big part. And then honestly, early on, man, it was just that hard work. It was, man, this is going to be a grind. We didn't realize how much of a grind, but we just stuck with it. We talked to smart people like yourselves and other people in our mentorship academy, and said, hey, what do we do here? What are your thoughts here? And we got through it. But I think it all starts with education, and then it's not easy, man. We talked about this, and I say this all the time, is I've been successful, modestly successful in my career, um, and there's sometimes people get a little shitty and jealous or whatever, and it's so hard to be successful and to make good money as you're learning. uh, it is so hard, and it's physically taxing, mentally taxing, financially taxing at times. Um, but it's a hell of a lot of work, and you just have to be willing to grind at times, outwork everybody at times, and take chances, educated chances. So um, that's a big part of it, also.
Definitely. One thing I want to kind of hit on because it's like hidden in what you're saying, but you're talking about the education end of things, which is super important. But you guys did not do what a lot of people do, and that's the analysis paralysis end, where you guys took action, bought that 20 unit, learned, the hard way in some areas of, hey, this is a lot of work. We are having to grind through this. But then on the back end, $1 million in equity created. And that's to us, we're always thinking about deals that have gone bad where it's still you're coming out on top because that's the power of kind of real estate. And so I just want to pick that out of what I'm hearing because we've seen the same thing within our portfolio, and it's nice to hear that reiterated.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
Now, as far as I kind of know your long-term outlook now, and it's definitely a really ambitious goal, which is awesome to hear. But if you don't mind sharing that, and then maybe kind of like just steps that you guys are taking. I know obviously just like you said, always taking action and underwriting deals. But if
Yeah.
there's anything else you can add to kind of blueprint that out for the audience.
I'm just winging it. No. Yeah. So I don't mind. Money was a dirty word growing up for me, and I've learned that that's not necessarily a good thing. And it's okay to talk about money, and it's okay to be incentivized and driven by money as long as you make money work for you and are charitable with it and are providing a good service to people, humanity. And so, yeah, no, I'm going to try to speak this into existence for sure. Jared, my plan, it's up on the whiteboard here, is we want to get to $100 million of real estate in 10 years. And so, the big things of how we're hoping to get there is I'm in Columbus, Ohio. It's a good market. If you were in it already, it's not the greatest market in the world right now. It's very hard to get into affordably for affordable housing, and so we're starting to look outside of Columbus and are hoping to get some traction there. That's a little scary because I've always been able to go touch the building, see the building, meet with the property managers, things like that. But the nice thing is, on April 1st, I exited my medical practice that I owned and had a little bit of a payday there. So I have a little bit of capital, but more than anything, I have time. And so uh, that's freed me up tremendously to look at deals and to network with other individuals. And I'm currently working on finalizing a deal right now in Pittsburgh. Maybe one in Detroit, although it looks like we are probably going to pass on that. So we're just going to get outside of our comfort zone again, and hopefully work with good guys and girls and grow that way. I'm also got the residential thing to stay busy, stay active, stay involved. I don't think I'm going to hit $100 million in single-family homes or Burr method properties, but it keeps me active, it keeps me sharp, and keeps me. I've got a great meeting, 2 meetings actually tomorrow with the Burr Queen of Columbus, Ohio. So and more than anything, man, like I get stagnant and ineffective when I'm not challenged in learning. It was that way in physical therapy. It was that way on the medical side, and it'll eventually get that way in real estate if I don't continue to find new and exciting things to do. So that's just another way to learn, to establish new relationships and whatnot. So that's kind of our game plan is growing outside of Columbus also, whether it's in a GC mode or a lesser JV setting. We don't care. We just want to be involved with good people and grow as quickly as we can. We're not going to get to $100 million and be leveraged to the hilt and have nervous diarrhea because we can't pay bills. So we have to be smart with it there too.
Definitely. And one thing I want to throw in, obviously, Midwest multifamily, so I've got to bring something up relevant there. But your brother Jared being out in Colorado, you being in Columbus, um, there's some obvious reasons to me, but maybe touch on kind of why you guys decided on that market and maybe why the Midwest altogether.
Yeah. It's not the sexiest market in the world. I'll have colleagues fly in from New York and California, and they kind of smirk about the cornfields and the bean fields, and it's Ohio and it's not L.A. and whatever, and that's fine, but it's also a very stable, very safe market in my opinion. Whether you're Des Moines, Iowa, or Columbus, Ohio, or Fort Wayne, Indiana, it's the stability piece there is comforting, and it's what we know too. I know the Midwest. I've been to I used to do a lecture circuit back 100 years ago, and so I've been in some of these. I've been to Des Moines. I've been to Indy. I've been to Fort Wayne. I've been Pittsburgh. All around, and so I know those areas, and I know the people too. So that was part of it, and again, the comfort of starting. I don't know if we would have been brave enough if to start out of state. Like if we had found a deal in Texas, I don't know. Me being kind of neurotic and control freak, that would have been hard for me. I wouldn't have been able to at the time travel out there as often as I needed to, and so that was a large part of it also. And still, like I'm not gonna probably expand into Texas and California and stuff like that. I want to stay relatively close and be able to jump on a plane or jump in the car and be there within a few hours. So
Definitely. No, it makes total sense.
yeah.
As far as maybe some, I guess, advice or input you would have for anyone that's either early on in the journey or just getting started, anything that you would either tell that person or tell yourself if you were restarting to do differently, or advice that you would give them?
Oh, yeah. I mean, like 4 or 5 things just jumped into my head. Um, Again, the education piece is crucial. I would not. I had a colleague reach out to me 2 3 weeks ago, a physical therapist who wants to get involved, and I mean he was already getting ready to submit an LOI on a significant portfolio out east, and he hadn't read a book. He hadn't done any research, and he was trying to wing it and asking me how to even submit the LOI. And I said, I'm not going to answer any damn questions until you read these 3 books. Read these books, and I'll be your biggest, I'll be your wingman, I'll be your mentor, whatever the hell you need. But do not go into this. He's got 4 kids, 5 kids. I'm like, do not go into this uneducated. So read, be educated, get involved in different groups. Don't be afraid to ask stupid questions, because it could it could save you $50,000 to $100,000. I mean that's where I would get started, and then I would, when you're getting involved, just double and triple check on references for general contractors, for lenders, and make sure you understand and vet every single person that you deal with. From, like I said, from the lending side to the GC side to the property management side, and make sure you know who you're dealing with, because we have some scar tissue still. We had a GC walk off with $100,000 worth of money and supplies on that first 20 units. A lot of that was our fault, but it was also kind of a perfect storm of things that happened that made it very easy for him to walk away with the money. Um, so I guess those would be the big things, and just be prepared for good and bad times, man. It's easy to get really cocky if you're involved in real estate at times because there are some big highs. Shit. We in a year we cashed out $1 million. Like, and there were times growing up we didn't have food, and so you see that, but then you can get humbled very, very quickly too when some jackass walks up with 100 grand, or I'm almost 50, and yeah, I'm doing fine, but there's always somebody else that's doing a hell of a lot better than you are, and not that you want to compare yourself, but that should keep you humble and for me a little motivated. How did you get there? And so I'm acting like that 20-year-old kid right out of physical therapy school right now. Tomorrow I've got 2 meetings, like I said, that I'm really excited to buy them coffee, buy them dinner, and maybe a smoked old fashioned on the last meeting, and just learn, and I think that's a huge part of what you need to get started, and always, always, always having somebody like yourself, myself, Jared, Jake, and Gino, somebody that you can pick up a phone and say, "Hey, I'm gonna spend a shitload of money here. Shoot holes in this, or what do you think?" If it's too good to be true, it is, and so you have to kind of listen to other people, listen to the universe too.
Definitely. No, that makes a lot of sense. Educate yourself, find a mentor, a sounding board to bounce those ideas off of, and check your work. Don't just wing it. I mean, it sounds so simple, but it's. I mean, we've done the same thing. The contractor seems good enough, and next thing you
Right.
know, work hasn't been done for 3 weeks. You're behind schedule, out a bunch of money. So, yeah, I think as good people, we do try and see the best in people in other scenarios, and so that sometimes bites us in the butt when we don't do proper due diligence on those people up front.
Right,
Um,
and that's exactly what happened with us. Is I run with good people. Literally, like dudes, if I gave them 100 grand and didn't see them for 10 years, they would have the 100 grand for me plus interest or something. Like, and so real estate. Yeah, that's a great point. There are a lot of bad people in real estate, and so. Um, you have to vet everybody and have your spidey senses on point, and uh, and once you find good people, you find a good general contractor, you find a good partner, then stick with those people and run with them for sure.
Definitely, absolutely. Well, Dane, I certainly appreciate you coming on here. I know you've got the email already plugged up there, and
Oh yeah.
then you finally made it onto Facebook, so you're reachable there now. Are there any other good places people can get in touch with you and
I've got a really good video of my daughter and I dancing on Snapchat. No, I mean email is the best way. Dane at AspenRealtyCO.com. I get random emails and phone calls from people all over asking for advice or whatever. So don't hesitate to email me there. Um, that's probably the best way to reach out.
Awesome. Well, Dane, thank you again for coming on to the Midwest Multifamily Podcast, and it was a pleasure having you. Hopefully, we'll have you on here again sometime.
Absolutely, anytime, man.